Hey people, it's me and Buster Green. Still trying to get my channel legitimized, so please subscribe. I need 500 more subscribers to monetize my videos, and I am so close to doing that. So fucking close. So anyway, it seems like a good time now, or as good a time as any, for me to do a massive Star Wars franchise dump. Because The Mandalorian Season 2 has just ended, and since Disney took over the property, they've been co-opting Christmas for the sake of every Star Wars ever since, because everyone has the day off at Christmas. Go figure. Anyway, I have been holding off on doing a Star Wars video because, if I'm being completely honest, I think there are too many YouTubers who have literally made careers out of shitting on The Last Jedi every single fucking day. The Last Jedi came out in 2017. It's been 4 years. And a majority of these YouTubers have created over 900 videos individually about how bad it is. Because it's just been over 900 days since that movie's come out. Now, as for me, I do have some serious thoughts about it, and I'll talk about it later in this video. But as bad as that movie was, and as much as I want my channel to succeed, it's just retarded to use a single movie as a punching bag every day for 4 years straight. Whatever that movie is. I mean, at a certain point, it's just plain mean. And it's fucking maddening that literally there are hundreds of YouTubers who straight up make a living by just hating Star Wars on YouTube. Anyway, let's move on. Spoilers ahead for pretty much every Star Wars movie, as well as the second season of The Mandalorian by the time I get to the end of this video. So feel free to jump off if I get to a point where you're caught up in the timeline. So anyway, here's my hot take on Star Wars. Now, the first Star Wars movies I saw as a kid were the 1990s special edition remakes. Now, a lot of people give those movies some shit, but those were the first movies I saw. And yeah, they were re-released with significant re-edits, but in my opinion, most of those changes were positive, with the exception of the whole Han shot first, Greedo shot first debate that's gone on ever since then. And yeah, anyway, so I saw the first 3 movies relatively back to back as a kid. And honestly, I didn't really like the first Star Wars movie. There were some parts of it that were boring and not the greatest. It has a super weird structure where the first half of the movie is just Tatooine and the second half of the movie is the Death Star. And on top of that, the first half an hour of Tatooine it's just R2 and 3PO dicking around in the desert, which, to me as a kid, was kind of weird. It only really made sense later on when I realized that George Lucas was just kind of play-by-play copying The Hidden Fortress, and The Hidden Fortress had a scene like that to boost the popularity of 2 comedy relief actors who were up-and-coming stand-up comedians. A lot of Japanese movies do this, and it always is annoying because it sacrifices the reality and the tone of the film to prop up some comedians who volunteered to be in the movie. Anyway, first Star Wars aside, Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi are fucking classics, and they firmly got me into the series. Also, for what it's worth, when I was a kid, they would also air them both on cable TV all the fucking time, and I could never keep them straight because there were commercials breaking them up, Yoda was in both of them, and yeah. So, Star Wars was a thing for me, but what really got me way into Star Wars was this bad baby, the Nintendo 64. Now, don't get me wrong, there have been Star Wars video games before the Nintendo 64. Like, I remember I had once seen the old Battlezone-inspired arcade game somewhere in Philadelphia, and I had friends who owned, like, Super Star Wars and Super Empire Strikes Back. And if I'm being honest, those games are fucking garbage. Like, I could never get past the first stage. I'd run out of lightsaber batteries or gun bullets, and in the first 5 minutes I'd be getting ripped to bejesus and back by fucking Womp Rats or some other stupid grunt enemy. I mean, like, hell, even if I play this game now with save states, I can barely beat the first stage of these games. But hey, when the N64 launched, it eventually came out with Shadows of the Empire. That was like the 5th game on the N64. And that was such a funner game than Super Star Wars. Like, the first level in fucking Shadows of the Empire is the freaking Battle of Hoth, which had never before been seen in 3D, and it was just so fucking cool and sick. And then after that, the game pretty much turns into a very hard but satisfying first-person shooter where you can travel around, you get to fight Boba Fett, you get to fight IG-88. Now, I eventually got hugely stuck at the castle stage, but I want to say it took me a year or two and I finally got past it. And then the game ended with this completely awesome X-Wing battle against what was ultimately a less than dangerous Death Star type space station. Now, after that, because I was a kid, I myself made my own bad fan Star Wars movie. It was basically a bad remake of New Hope starring my dog, because I was a kid. That's what you do when you grow up in the United States. You make a bad remake of New Hope. And meanwhile, the N64 kept churning out hit after hit Star Wars game. So the next game on the N64 that fucking ruled my childhood was Rogue Squadron. Rogue Squadron was literally just a huge expansion of the stuff I loved most about Shadows of the Empire, which was the fucking ship combat. So it took out all the slow and meandering first-person segments, and then holy shit, when you beat this game, the secret units in the game were fucking legit. Like, not only could you unlock all the rare ships that you would expect, but you could unlock the car from Men in Black. And then in a fucking mind-blowing secret that was hidden in the game for years, when Episode 1 came out, they told everyone that you could unlock the Naboo Starfighter from Episode 1 in this game that had come out like 3 years before Episode 1 did. And somehow no one had managed to find the damn thing. And you know if they had done that today, it would have been like data mined on day 1. So that too was fucking cool as hell. So yeah, when I was in 5th grade, Episode 1 came out. Now, as a 5th grader, my take on Episode 1, that was Jar Jar Binks was stupid, but I did otherwise think it was cool that a little kid like Anakin was the main character, and that he accomplished so much as a child. Now, in retrospect, as an adult, I'm not really sure if Anakin Skywalker mowing down hundreds of Trade Federation soldiers was a little unrealistic, a little lucky, a little corny, kind of some bait for the kids, or was it actually a well thought out foreshadowing for his future as Vader, who was a non-stoppable killing machine? But in the aftermath of Episode 1, you know what reality gave me? Reality gave me Star Wars Episode 1 Pod Racer. And the first time I saw this thing was in a fucking arcade at the mall, where they had this ridiculous fucking setup where you actually sat inside the pod racer and played the game. And that was so cool. And then after that, the home N64 version came out, and it came out just after I'd cleaned up on F-Zero X. And wow, that like just hit all the right beats at all the right times. And that too was a fucking classic game that I loved. Now, after that, Star Wars Episode 2 comes out. And I didn't like Episode 2. It kind of sucked. I forgave it at the end when it finally turned into a massive battle. But again, I was a little kid. All the mushy stuff, all the weird romance, the fact that Anakin was like heavily pursuing a woman who was like 10 years his like superior. Just didn't seem right to me. But hey, Yoda fought with a lightsaber. That was pretty interesting. Never seen that before. So then after that, the Clone Wars cartoon came out. And I loved the Jandy Tartakovsky version. The way they set up General Grievous as this pre-Darth Vader uber monster thing, that was fucking mind-blowing. But then they fucking remade it as a bad CGI cartoon, and I didn't like that at all. Like, there was so much to hate in those early episodes. The animation was bad, Ahsoka was annoying, and I felt like the Jandy Tartakovsky version was superior in like every single way, and then they just smugly undone it like not even a year later. And for whatever reason, even though the CGI Clone Wars covered the same events, the CGI version never really covered any of the characters who were prominently set up in the Genndy version. except Ventress was in both, so that was confusing because what was really weird was her origin was in the Gendu series, and then the CGI version, she's kind of there. So, I don't know. But then, after all that, finally Episode 3 came out. And Episode 3 was good. I thought it was the best of the prequel movies. I thought it hit all the right beats. And quite frankly, I thought it defined the prequel series, and it was the only one that really, really mattered. Like, if we're being honest, you could have thrown out the other 2 prequel movies. You really only needed Episode 3. Everything that the original trilogy set up was all on Episode 3. And I mean, it's devolved into memes since then, but I feel like it did a lot of things right, and that's something that the other prequel films did not do. Now, after that, I had to go to college, and my interest in Star Wars definitely started to fade away. Now, I played the other Rogue Squadron sequels on the GameCube, I rented Force Unleashed from Blockbuster, and then I was sort of done with Star Wars for a while. And that's kind of where we were until Disney brought the franchise and brought it back to life. So, years later, I'm in New York. All of a sudden, Force Awakens comes out. And by and large, a lot of people like that movie for whatever reason. But I just need to go out here on a limb, and I need to say, fuck all that. Why did anyone think this movie was good? This movie is fucking plagiarism. It's lazy crap made by people who did not understand Star Wars. It is such a fucking ripoff of Episode 4 that the plagiarism makes me sick. Because literally, when I remade Episode 4 as a fucking 7-year-old, I was more original than fucking J.J. Abrams was. Like, Rey is a fucking Mary Sue type archetype character who is literally undefeatable in combat with no training. And by the end of the movie, she has literally taken all the best stuff from the original Star Wars, from all the characters. She has fucking Luke's lightsaber, she has fucking Han's ship, she has fucking Leia's training bra, and she's taken all the good stuff from multiple characters. Chewbacca and R2 are both working for her, and she's claimed it for herself. And on top of that, I fucking hated the fact that the bad guys only had TIE fighters and the good guys only had X-Wings, when even in Episode 4, the good guys also had Y-Wings, and Vader had like his Commander TIE fighter. And for real, George Lucas at least tried to do different things with his movies. Even if the prequels were weighted down with boring political melodrama, he at least didn't give us a fucking rerun of a movie. So, I was horrifically let down by Episode 7. Like, I was shocked and horrified that that's where they were going with it. Like, I was ahead of all y'all. I don't know what you guys were thinking ever liking Episode 7. Now, after this, Rogue One comes out. Now, by contrast, Rogue One, I enjoyed it. Now, I didn't think Jyn Erso or Cassian Andor were, likable, but they weren't overpowered, so I could at least accept them. And then they palled around with some okay kung fu dudes, a prick robot, and then, to say the least, Rogue One got a lot of points in my book. Like the point where the movie just full on turned into Death Star porn. And then just I don't know, I thought that Rogue One made a lot of artistic choices, and I really enjoyed the final battle of the movie. And I thought it was just, in general, being a really clever movie that answered the question no one asked: what happened the day before the first Star Wars movie? And for that, I thought it was cool. Now, then 2017 comes, and we arrive at The Last Jedi. Now, everyone fucking hates this movie, but I just thought it was weird. Really weird. Now, I should probably side note this story with the fact that when I first watched The Last Jedi, I went to see it at a theater in New York City, and the heat shut off midway through the movie in a snowstorm. And so the theater just got unbearably cold. By the time Luke fought Kylo, I was basically on the verge of freezing to death. So that might have impacted my ability to process the movie. But anyway, The Last Jedi is just a messed up movie. Now, Rian Johnson was definitely at least trying to advance the story, but I think he got overly distracted with number one, subverting expectations, and number two, fucking over J.J. Abrams. Now, I'm not gonna go on a long fucking rant here that lasts 900 days, like some of these old Fossil fans I've seen online, but The Empire Strikes Back did one cool thing, and that's that it split up the heroes, it let them have their own adventures, and then it all had them come back together for the cool final battle. And Last Jedi does that same thing, except let's take a second and look where it goes. Rey goes off to meet Luke Skywalker, and Luke wants nothing to do with her because she's a bad character, and their whole arc is a long, weird waste of time. Meanwhile, Leia almost dies, except she dies in real life. Rip Carrie Fisher. And huge missed opportunity that created. Then, meanwhile, Poe is putting up with bitchy pink-haired lady who knows that everything he says and does is always wrong. And that was just super awkward. Like, I honestly felt bad for him as I watched the movie. And then the pink-haired lady heroically kills herself, which was literally the second time they wasted another opportunity for Leia to exit the trilogy on a decently high note. And then finally, out of nowhere, we have the bizarre adventure of Rose Tico. And holy shit, what the fuck is this story? Like, the Rose Tico story is that Finn lost control of his story arc, was kidnapped by Rose Tico, who's sad her sister died, so she was like abusing people. Then they try to sneak onto a ship, and while they're trying to do that, they kill a bunch of innocent drunken gamblers at a casino. They let loose a bunch of racehorses, causing chaos. Then they go on a minor side quest. They kill Captain Phasma, who by all extents should have been killed by the events of the first movie. Like, they left her for dead on an exploding planet with like literally seconds to spare. Like, I thought for sure she was dead, so I don't know why they waste like another 10 minutes re-killing her. Then, in a final out-and-out firefight, Rose goes out of her way to destroy Finn's ship, stop him from ending his story on a high note of being a kamikaze pilot, and then proceeds to sexually assault him, much to his own shock and confusion. And Jesus, what the fuck? I mean, if that was a man, that would never have been okay in a million years. But okay, wow. Weird movie. And then another huge troll move that Johnson pulled off was righteously killing Snoke in the middle of the film. Like, no one knew where that was going. He was pretty much daring J.J. Abrams to direct Episode 9 and stick the landing with Kylo Ren being the villain and not having a cliche redemption arc. And that's something J.J. Abrams epically failed to do. You know, there was a zombie Palpatine and a whole bunch of other weirdness. Kelly Marie Tran, she's a good actor. She doesn't deserve the shit. They just gave her a really strange story, and hopefully someday she gets a good one to work on. Anyway, The Last Jedi was kind of a troll sequel movie, and it was pretty much just created to subvert audience expectations and fuck over every story seed that J.J. Abrams had put into Episode 7. Now, as bad as Last Jedi was, Rise of Skywalker was infinitely worse. And I think what made it so utterly bad was that they put J.J. Abrams back in charge of directing it. Because Rise of Skywalker really shows off that J.J. Abrams is a complete hack of a director. Now, he's great at starting franchises, but when he keeps getting pushed, he starts to make lazy and half-assed remakes. Like Force Awakens, lazy remake of Star Wars. Star Trek Into Darkness, lazy remake of Star Trek. Now, Rise of Skywalker could have been an okay movie, but they should never put Abrams in charge of it, because he did two things epically wrong. First of all, that motherfucker has never managed to fucking land a movie. He's good at taking them off, but whenever he tries to land them, he crashes and fails. J.J. Abrams is good for dumping all the toys on the floor and telling you what they are, but then he's awful when you have to put them back away. And J.J. Abrams has never been challenged to end one of his own stories. This is the first time it ever happened, and quite frankly, he completely failed on it. Also, if he was even up to succeeding at this challenge, I think the second major mistake of The Rise of Skywalker was that The Last Jedi, among enraging hundreds of elderly Star Wars fans, was also a movie that enraged J.J. Abrams. I really think that he took The Last Jedi as a personal attack on himself, because if you look for where he came from on The Rise of Skywalker, it seems like he was mad, bro. Like, The Rise of Skywalker isn't even a fucking movie. It's J.J. Abrams throwing a discombobulated temper tantrum as he tries to wrap up every broken story element that The Last Jedi already broke. So as bad as The Last Jedi was, I feel like every other moment in The Rise of Skywalker was either offensively stupid or literally devoid of acting and storytelling, and pretty much just the actors breaking the fourth wall, staring the audience in the face, and crying and asking what would finally make them happy. Nothing in this movie fucking made sense. And I literally can't even with this movie. There were too many fake out deaths. There were too many characters just having their stories drop cold. And then Kylo randomly switches sides at the end, murders what I think were his friends or otherwise his own lackeys. And I don't even want to get started on how angry I was about fucking Palpatine being back, how that fucking ruins Anakin Skywalker's arc, or how by making Rey his granddaughter, that essentially makes all these movies not the Skywalker saga, but the Palpatine saga. So, yeah. If we're gonna break down the sequel trilogy, we have a horrible soulless remake that feeds into a strange trolling sequel that feeds into an even more trolling troll sequel of a troll sequel. And good God, that is all fucked up. There was so much money wasted. These people could not take their time and get their shit right. I get that Marvel movies have to compete with DC, but Star Wars had to literally compete with nothing. All they had to do was just take a year and think things out properly. Oh yeah, and also in between those movies, Solo came out. I think if Lloyd and Miller had released their version of it, it might have been okay, but no one ever got to see that because they spent $1 million to release a very safe and unexciting Ron Howard remake of that movie, which was utterly devoid of anything worth talking about it. Donald Glover as Lando was good. I don't know. Moving along. So, Star Wars was dead again for a couple of years. I don't know. I heard rumblings online that because the sequel trilogies were so poorly received, they might be canceled out. Or maybe we're just going to ignore them and we're just never going to get to where they're at. I mean, they really made no one happy and they honestly damaged the franchise's future. Star Wars was just kind of stale for a little bit. But then, when things were at their darkest, The Mandalorian came out. And the first season was really good. Baby Yoda was cute, IG-11 was cool. They were aping on Lone Wolf and Cub while having some very distinct Esperanto-style music. And in the first season, fucking Werner Herzog stole the show as being a maximum evil Werner Herzog. And when I thought that was at its peak, he died and got usurped by maximum evil Giancarlo Esposito. And yeah. And then season 2 came out, and season 2 was just fucking astounding for where it went in terms of scope. As good as season 1 was, season 2 did almost everything fucking right. The first episode with the giant worm and the fake Boba Fett, fucking perfect. The episode with Ahsoka that aped hard on the fucking cinematography from Yojimbo, that was fucking perfect. The episode with Boba Fett and fucking Robert Rodriguez driving, that was fucking perfect. Season 2 just ended and holy God, my God. I literally felt the ripples through the internet as more and more people saw this episode, and they were just like so relieved and so happy. And so I finally watched it myself on Friday, and here are my thoughts on the Mandalorian finale. I did not think that they would whip out Luke Skywalker. And then in the end, when they did, holy shit, with that music, just that everything, it was fucking perfect. And when I saw him, I cried. I fucking cried because it was full CGI young Luke Skywalker. It was the Luke Skywalker I had not seen since I was a kid. Like, I realized when I saw the green lightsaber, it was going to be Luke Skywalker. But in my mind, I was expecting it to be like the old Luke Skywalker, or at least the old Luke Skywalker trying to look young from the end of The Last Jedi. Like, I never in a million years thought we would see the pristine, mid-20s, 1980s Mark Hamill alive and well. Like, I was honestly moved. Like, especially since my hopes for seeing any proper version of Luke were killed after The Last Jedi. Like, I just got chills all over. Like, maybe that's why people have just been so mad at The Last Jedi, because not only was it shitty, but it, like, offensively implied that we would never see the full power Luke Skywalker, that we'd never have such a satisfying moment as this little piece of heaven we got at the end of Mandalorian Season 2. Now, since Mandalorian Season 2 has ended, there are some heavy questions hanging in the air. Now, the ending teases the book of Boba Fett is coming next. But the big thing about the Mandalorian Season 2 ending is that fucking Luke Skywalker is alive and well and back in play. And I have no idea what that's setting up. But it's gotta be setting up something. I mean, like, everyone loves Luke, everyone loves Baby Yoda. Like, the lack of a post-Return of the Jedi Luke adventure is a fucking crime. I don't know. Hey, have you guys ever played a video game and spent the whole game getting your character perfect, and then when the character is finally perfect, there's nothing left for him to do? That's how I feel like we're at with Luke. Luke is like perfect right now, and we've never had an adventure with that perfect Luke. Now, that's kind of what I need to say about Star Wars right now. By the way, one more thing on the video game note. I haven't played a Star Wars video game since Force Unleashed 1. I really think that since EA is making the games now, that really has soured me on the whole thing, since EA is a garbage company. I don't like the way they treat their fans. I don't like the way they treat their customers. And I'm very, very hesitant to support them. And with LucasArts dead, we just haven't seen a Rogue Squadron sequel in years, except for that brand new Rogue Squadron movie that just got announced. But, I mean, I played like a round or two of Battlefront at a Christmas party 4 years ago. I thought it looked really cool, like graphics-wise, but I don't know. I find multiplayer shooters a waste of time. I might, however, be actually talked into playing Star Wars Squadrons, though, which I literally just found out about yesterday while searching for some more VR games to play. And yeah, a Star Wars VR flight sim, that is definitely something that sounds interesting to me and that I would actually be interested in playing. So anyway, let me know what you guys think. Are there any Star Wars games that I should play? And do you guys think that as of now, with The Mandalorian being over, the Star Wars franchise is heading in the right direction again? Let me know in the comments, because I'm genuinely curious what you guys think. I don't usually talk about Star Wars, and depending on how you guys feel, maybe I will, maybe I won't. Alright, thank you guys. This was a long video. I had a lot to talk about. Please subscribe to my channel. Good night.